What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron. This week we have had wall-to-wall rookie draft content. We have done a rookie mock draft on Monday, my top 10 running back rankings, my top 10 wide receiver rankings. And today, in terms of player analysis, I want to dive a little bit deeper, give you guys my top 5 must-draft sleepers in these Dynasty rookie drafts. So guys going outside of the top 2 rounds that I'm targeting in every single one of my rookie drafts. So with that being said, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight into this. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty bag.
All right, so the first guy we're going to talk about, going at the 310 in Dynasty rookie drafts. These are all of these ADPs that I'm going to reference are from Adiko at Adiko_FF. He is getting all the shine in the world right now. He is somebody that I've talked to and, kind of used his resources for the past year or two. He's finally getting his shine. I know Sleeper shouted out his ADP resource, got 1,000 likes or something like that, something crazy on Twitter. He's gained I think 1,500 followers in the last week or two. One of the, not anymore, but used to be one of the gems of Twitter. He is now really catching up and sort of going crazy here, but he has really great resources. I will put the rookie draft ADP in the description or in the comments down below. But the first guy we're going to talk about, Jelani Woods, tight end out of Virginia. I believe that he played at Ohio State for 3 years and transferred to Virginia, but he went third round in the NFL draft. He's going at the 310 in Dynasty rookie drafts. And when you talk about Jelani Woods, where the analysis pretty much starts is that he is just a freak athlete. He ran a 4.61. He has a 94th percentile speed score. He's 6'7", 252 pounds. So he's massive. A guy that's 6'7" and can run almost a 4.6 flat is just a ridiculous athlete. He absolutely killed the combine. His relative athletic score, I believe, is the highest ever for a tight end. I think that it's higher than Vernon Davis, which is insane. He has a perfect 10 relative athletic score. He has great size and agility, elite explosion and speed, which means that he has all the upside in the world. All of those guys at the top end of those Dynasty tight end rankings, maybe not Mark Andrews so much, but when we talk about Darren Waller and Kelsey and Kittle, and even, I believe that Hawkinson tested well. I believe that Goddard tested well. Noah Fant, obviously, Albert O. Most of those guys at the top that, have those monster years like a Gronk, a Jimmy Graham, a Antonio Gates. All of those guys are kind of freaky athletes. And Jelani Woods fits that to a T. The biggest drawback, though, and the reason why he is a third-round pick, both in the NFL and in rookie drafts, is his production profile is really weak. And that is kind of the tough part to sort of swallow. He never hit a single threshold for receiving yard market share. He never commanded a good chunk of receiving yards in college, which isn't the end of the world. Tight ends are developmental players. They're not going to jump off the page. I believe that George Kittle's production kind of looks a lot like this, but again, he was a day 3 pick, a little bit cheaper to acquire. So when you look at Jelani Woods, he's super raw. The film grinders agree that he's super raw, and not just in the stats. Lance Zierlein lit him up on NFL.com. These are just some of the weaknesses I'm going to quote real quick. He leans into his route breaks, giving away intentions. He lurches into his stop routes and break points. Hands are very unnatural as a pass catcher. Not much wiggle after the catch. Those are 5 different negatives that he had for Jelani Woods, a guy who's supposed to be a really good receiving tight end. So he is not a tight end you're going to get production from through maybe a year or two. He is definitely it's not great that he's going to be a taxi squad stash in the 3rd round, but again, you're getting him in the late 3rd. He's at the 310. He has almost as much upside as anybody in that range. So it's not a terrible, use of resource. Again, I know I kind of just gave all the negatives, but relative athletic score, let's just kind of cleanse the palate real quick. 10 relative athletic score, jumps out the gym. You can see it, right? This is a guy who has the upside to be something great, but it is a home run swing, which in the 3rd round, that's what I'm looking for. With Jelani Woods, he goes to the Colts in the 3rd round, and for what it's worth, I actually like that landing spot. It's a pretty strong landing spot because Frank Reich, he uses tight ends to a certain extent. We've seen Eric Ebron have a top 5 season under Frank Reich with the Colts. I believe that he was the coach with Zach Ertz over there in Philly. So he does utilize tight end, and that's not a massive narrative I want to buy into, but it's not a negative landing spot by any means. We also want our tight ends. This is a really good point of emphasis that I believe that Andrew Cooper has on Twitter. But most of the top tight ends, when you look at them, Kittle, it's him and Debo. I know Ayuk is in the picture now, but Kelsey, it was him and Tyreek. And you have Mark Andrews, it was Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. Most of those guys that have top 5 seasons, they need to be a top 2 option in that offense. There's no one really established on this Colts team besides Michael Pittman. Now, the only drawback is that Jelani Woods is probably like 3 or 4 years away from being a usable tight end in fantasy, so they could add another weapon. Michael Pittman could even be gone by that point. Things are changing in the NFL so much that it's tough to, especially with a tight end who's going to break out down the line, it's tough to really outline that path this early on. Regardless, though, he has the intangibles. You can't teach 10 relative athletic score, 4.61 at his size. Hopefully he goes to the Colts and, he kind of learns his way around things. They don't have a great tight end there, but I mean, I guess you have like Mo Alley Cox, and I don't think that Jack Doyle is still on that team anymore, but hopefully he kind of learns a position, figures things out, and if he puts it together, you're looking at, he could have a type of value accrual as a Alberto, who's now like a top 12, top 14 tight end in Dynasty that you probably got in a similar range in your rookie drafts, and that's already paying off. So that is our first must-draft sleeper. Moving on from Jelani Woods, where you kind of have to sort of squint through and really put things together for Jelani Woods. Again, though, you can't teach 4.61 at 6'7". We have Chianti Ingram, who has been one of my darlings since rookie draft season started, and I'm even more glad that his price really isn't that bad. He's going at the 312 in Dynasty rookie drafts. I've already taken him, I believe, at the 306. I think I've taken him at the 401 so far in rookie drafts. I have him as my 306. So not a huge gap, but in rookie draft rankings, if you're high on a guy, you're only really going to be maybe a half round ahead of consensus. So I have him at my 306. He's going at the 312 in rookie drafts. I love Chianti Ingram. He goes to a great landing spot to the Cardinals on day 3. 6 rounds, not great draft capital, but in terms of that environment for scoring fantasy points, it's great because they are usually one of the teams that they don't run the ball at a league high rate like a Ravens, Eagles, Titans, but they run so many plays with this high tempo kind of air raid offense. They run so many plays that they end up having a ton of rush attempts anyways, especially being a very neutral team. They're never top 10 in pass attempts. They're usually right towards the middle. And when you run enough plays, there's going to be tons of rushing opportunity. And then you also get Kyler Murray, who's going to have an offense that's probably going to score some points. And Kyler Murray also adds that Lamar Jackson type aspect to the offense, kind of Robert Griffin III type aspect, where he's so loose out of the pocket and he can scramble and he scares the linebackers that you're going to open up running lanes when your quarterback is a rushing threat. Because that's one more guy that the linebackers and the safeties, everybody in the box has to account for. So he's going to benefit from that efficiency. On top of that, we're just talking about the environment there. The depth chart is really thin. He comes into a depth chart on the Cardinals where he's only competing with James Conner and then Eno Benjamin behind him. And Eno Benjamin's a guy that I kind of liked coming out, but we're now talking about a guy that's a 7th round pick. Chianti Ingram's a 6th round pick. Not a massive difference. And Eno Benjamin, he didn't play a single snap in 2021. He has 34 career carries in 2 years. He's not a massive hindrance to Chianti Ingram. If you draft him and you believe that he's good, he could very easily supplant Eno Benjamin as that RB2. Now, when we talk about James Conner, he's 27 at this point. He could decline. He could get hurt. He's never played a full season in the NFL. And I'm not saying Chianti Ingram will ever be the RB1 in this offense, but a player that you're taking at the 312, all you really need to make a profit on Chianti Ingram is for James Conner to get hurt for a 3-4 game stretch, which obviously we don't root for injury, but it's something that happens to running backs especially, and James Conner has never stayed healthy in an NFL season. You get 3 to 4 games of Chianti Ingram, and he rips off a Khalil Herbert type 15 points per game over that stretch. You can then flip him for a second that you paid a 312 on. You can flip him for a second in that 2023 draft class, which is a pretty wild value proposition in terms of Chianti Ingram. Now, the Chianti Ingram, the player, I've talked about everything around him, his environment, his depth chart. Chianti Ingram, the player, is a guy that I had my eye on where the model didn't like him a ton, but my model was really unkind to him. With these guys that are bronzes, all of these players on this list are bronzes in my model, the RS grades, the guys that don't hit at a really high rate. So, when you're sifting through bronzes, I don't really care who has the highest RS grade out of the bronzes. They're all bronze regardless. And the thing that sort of pops out with Chianti Ingram is he scores poorly because of his junior year. His junior year completely tanked his entire profile, but I can give him some leeway there because pretty much what happened was he was pretty much a 2-year starter, played really well through 2 seasons at Texas. Then his junior year, Bijan Robinson comes onto the field, who's supposed to be this next Saquon Barkley level prospect. He is actually, as of right now, a little sneak peek. We're going to do some 2023 rookie draft talk, I think, next week. But just to kind of, value, I know a lot of us have rookie drafts going on. We're trying to trade into that 2023 draft class, kind of, revisit it. I know I checked it out last year, but just kind of revisit it. What are we trading into? He, as of right now, is a legendary running back, which we haven't had one since Saquon Barkley in 2018. So that's the kind of prospect that came in there as a true freshman and bumped Chianti Ingram out. I really can't blame him for it. Then he transfers to USC, has a fine year, and he has a really nice profile where he's 6 foot, 221 pounds, was a 4-star recruit coming in. He runs a 4.53. He has a perfect 3-down skill set where he has the size, he has the speed, and he has the pass catching ability. He had 27 receptions as a true freshman at Texas, which is pretty wild. He's passed 20 receptions 3 out of his 4 years. Again, the 1 year he didn't hit that threshold was when he had Bijan Robinson pretty much take his lunch money as a junior, which happens to the best of us. We saw that with Miles Sanders. We also have film guys who absolutely love Chianti Ingram. I believe that Noah Hills, for BDGE, he's somebody that's much more film and efficiency, and he kind of beats to his own drum when it comes to running back evaluation. I believe he had him as like his RB5 or 6 post-draft in terms of his running back ranking. So he is somebody that the film guys absolutely love. He looks like a very high upside type player where he has a 3-down skill set. He's big, he's fast, he's pretty much everything you're looking for in a late round dart throw in a rookie draft. Now, a guy who doesn't look a ton like Chianti Ingram, kind of looks like almost the opposite of a Chianti Ingram, is Tyler Beatty. Is it Tyler Beatty or Tyler Beatty? I don't know, man. But Tyler Beatty goes 403, or he goes 403 in Dynasty rookie drafts, and he's a really fun prospect. He is this compact 5'8", satellite type back, 197 pounds, but he has juice. He ran a 4.45, and he is a legit pass catcher out of the backfield. He had a 16.7% target share in his final season, 54 receptions as well in the SEC, and then he also looked good on the ground in his final season. Through his first 3 years, he wasn't a great rushing threat. He was always just a receiving back, but in his final year, he had 16 rushing yards and 1,600 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns in the SEC. Pretty dang good. He kind of looks like, his size, his speed. He looks like a Giovanni Bernard, James White type guy on paper. And I wanted to sort of run his comps in my database with the RS grades. I have a way to, sort of just spit out rookie comps where I take into account their size, athleticism, age, production, film, receiving abilities, all of that good stuff. And it spits out a list of players that have the most comparable rookie profiles. And this is a list that it spits out. I know this is a lot of names here, but it has a lot of really fun comps for a guy you're getting in the early 4th of a rookie draft. You have James White, Myles Gaskin, Chris Thompson, Bilal Powell, Chase Edmonds, Michael Carter. Those smaller, compact receiving backs that, are sort of cheat codes in PPR. Obviously, these aren't like world beaters, guys that are going to like win you leagues, though I do believe that James White had one year where you needed to have James White in the fantasy playoffs if you wanted any chance against Todd Gurley. He went crazy one time, but these guys are PPR machines. They can just sort of go off like 60 receptions in a season and give you like meaningful RB2 production. And for the price that you're paying, that's a great trade-off there. And with Tyler Beatty, you're getting him in the 4th round of the draft. The biggest drawback for him is I'd be a little bit higher. Now, he is a 6th-round pick. The biggest drawback for him is that he goes to the Ravens, which is a tough fit. Ideally, you'd want him to go to a team that has a statue-type quarterback. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Maybe you'd want to see him, I was going to say like a Goff or Matt Ryan, but they have Nyheim Hines and DeAndre Swift. Just something you'd want a quarterback in that area of archetype, which is a little bit rough because he goes to the Ravens, who have Lamar Jackson, who has never really used a satellite back. But I'm a little bit optimistic with Tyler Beatty because he's going into a running back room where the only running backs that are locked into starting roles are both coming off of ACL tears. You have J.K. Dobbins, you have Gus Edwards. So in camp, in preseason, all of that good stuff, he's going to have every opportunity to carve out a role at the very least. I doubt that they just want to run both J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards into the ground again, and maybe he finds a way to kind of, squeeze his way in there and come in there on passing downs. Because I remember last year they had, they couldn't really find a receiving back that could at least pass block or something. Now I'm not certain that Tyler Beatty. Man, I am butchering that. Tyler Beatty is a good pass blocker, but I imagine, 5'8", that archetype, 54 receptions, that he knows a thing or two about protecting the quarterback. Now, after that, we're getting really deep here. This is the 411. I know some of you guys don't even have a 5th round in your rookie draft, so this is somebody you can snag. Maybe he doesn't even get drafted in your draft. But he's somebody that I've been high on throughout the entire pre-draft process. Kevin Harris, South Carolina running back, and he looks like an NFL running back. He's 5'10", 221 pounds, 89th percentile burst, so he's explosive, he's big. He also has that age profile we love, which is early declare and age. He's 21 years old. He declared early. Now, I will say he went 6th round. He probably could have stayed another year and maybe like boosted his draft stock. A lot of these seniors do get drafted highly, especially as running backs. But it says something that the NFL saw him after 3 years and said, hey, we want to draft that guy. He also had a really strong sophomore year where at 20 years old in the SEC, he had over 1,000 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns on the ground, and 21 receptions. So he has pretty much like a do-it-all type skill set. He's not ever going to be an Alvin Kamara in the receiving game, but he can give you, he's average to, a plus in the receiving game, which is nice. Lance Zierlein comped him to Carlos Hyde. He has him as the RB8 in this class among running backs drafted, and he likes him as a battering ram that knows how to, find his hole and just give you meaningful yards, which I believe that Bill Belichick, the landing spot he went to, is going to value. Now, the only drawbacks in terms of Kevin Harris are his long speed. He's not very fast. I believe that it says there that he ran like something in the 4.6. He's, again, the pass catching, he's not going to ever have like 70 plus catches. He also had a back injury in college, which is probably why he fell in the draft a little bit. He had some kind of back injury, I believe, after his sophomore year, where it like sort of left him sidelined. And back injuries are tough. I talked about this when I talked about Kevin Harris last time that I mentioned him, where we've had Michael Porter Jr. in the NBA. He can never stay healthy. Like, back injuries are just really tough, man. Like, you can just do any little thing, you throw out your back, and you're out for like 3 weeks. So that is also something to keep an eye on. But I like his size. I like his production, his age. I think he is the type of running back that if somebody in front of him gets injured, he could seize a role, right? Like a Khalil Herbert last year, even, like a guy like Peyton Barber last year when Josh Jacobs went down. Now, he goes 6th round to the Patriots, and that landing spot is rough, man, because they, like, Bill Belichick just says, he just said, screw it, I'm just going to draft all the running backs. Like, his running back room right now is pretty crazy. He has Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, James White, Pierre Strong, who they also drafted, Brandon Bolden, could even bring back J.J. Taylor. I don't know if he's even on contract, but they have a million guys. Like, Kevin Harris is he's kind of at risk of not even making the 53-man roster, for being honest. Like, that's a lot of running backs that could easily cut him. So it's tough. Now, I will say he could just get picked up by somebody else, and then that becomes interesting as well. I think he's worth a shot. He has good talent, good size. Bill Belichick last year, he had weeks where he was rolling out like J.J. Taylor. So I don't know, man. Running backs get hurt a lot in the NFL. There's an easy way where in the late 4th round, you're just not going to get a running back of this caliber who, if given the opportunity, could be like a 15-point per game guy, which is great. Again, in the 4th round, you can flip him for something else, like a 2023 third plus in season. Then we have our last player here, Charlie Colar. And I talked about him in my top 5 must-draft players video, but we're going to go over him one more time. Charlie Colar, best comparable to Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He is honestly, like, in a vacuum without draft capital, a better prospect than Jelani Woods in a vacuum. Just sucks that he went day 3 and not day 2. If he went 3rd round, I'd be scooping up Charlie Colar in every single draft, probably taking him like early to mid 4th. 4th round draft capital is rough. Day 3 draft capital across the board, hit rates is rough. But he is everything that you want in a late round dart throw tight end. He's a freak athlete, 4'6'7", at 6'7", 252 pounds. I believe Jelani Woods is 6'7", runs a 4'6'1". So really not that far off from a guy like Jelani Woods, who's a freak athlete, 10 relative athletic score. Charlie Colar had a 9.11 relative athletic score. So he has that freak athletic type profile. He also has 82nd percentile agility scores. He's a great athlete. Now, unlike Jelani Woods, he wasn't a complete zero in the production area of things. He actually produced in college, which is great. Now, he wasn't a mega producer. He wasn't a guy who went out there and went crazy, but he wasn't a zero. He hit the threshold for the average of top 12 tight ends on campus to Canton. He hit 3 out of 4 of those seasons. So year 3, year 4, year 5 out of high school, he hit those thresholds. We're talking about a guy that you can get in the 5th round of your rookie draft. He showed that he could produce. He's a freak athlete. That's pretty much all you really want from him. Now, you're getting him in the 5th round of your rookie draft. I don't think that, it's just worth noting that with all these tight ends, you're not going to get a tight end that's going to hop on the field and be an instant starter ever, especially on day 3. He's another guy where you draft him, you stash him on your taxi squad, and you just hope that he pans out 2, 3, 4 years down the line. He goes to the Ravens, which isn't a great landing spot. He's probably, again, a few years out from developing. He has Mark Andrews in front of him, which isn't great for a breakout, but again, he's probably 2, 3, 4 years out from breaking out in a real meaningful way. So, he probably can, this is like real hand in the dirt stuff, but he can kind of, learn from Mark Andrews. And by the time that he is going to actually produce meaningful points for your team, maybe he gets traded, maybe he gets cut, maybe Mark Andrews gets traded somewhere else. Maybe Mark Andrews kind of, I don't know, maybe he's going to be like 30 by then and he's not as great. There's a ton of different kind of like outs there. Again, this is a 5th round rookie pick. There's not going to be this super clear runway for him to take off. Again, he's going to develop. Things are going to change in the NFL. So pretty much you're just hoping that his profile is strong enough that he's going to have flashes there and either get traded or Mark Andrews gets traded. And he's just a guy you can put on your taxi squad and let develop for the next 2-3 years as a, upside, kind of like a, somewhere between where like Foster or Alberto is like a ceiling outcome. His floor-ish area is probably like a Foster Moreau, which isn't great, but if Mark Andrews ever goes down, maybe Charlie Colar can like fit in like the next like 2 or 3 years, and he kind of can give you a splash week here and there. Again, 5th round rookie pick, there's only so much that these guys can do in a weak class like this. Now, that's going to do it for us today. I know I didn't mention a single wide receiver, but I got to be honest with you guys. I'm pretty much out on taking wide receivers in the 3rd, in the 4th, 5th rounds if I can avoid it. I'm not really interested in the Romeo Dubes, Kalosha Kurz, Velus Jones, Tyquan Thorntons, all of those guys of the world. I'll let my league mates draft them. If I'm in a running back hungry group, like my subscriber league that I just had to take Calvin Austin in the 5th round of, I will. But if I can avoid it, I will. I don't want to have Amari Rodgers on my teams next year. I don't want to have, next year's Amari Rodgers, Tylan Wallace's, Tutu Atwell's. I'm trying to think of those other like round like 4 or 5 guys. I don't need like I'm trying to think like even like a Des Fitzpatrick. I don't even really want to take a swing on. Just those guys like Seth Williams too. Like just like I'm just good on that. I will take a running back who can just give you immediate value right away. I don't want to wait on those wide receivers. More often than not, those guys do not hit in the NFL. Day 3 wide receivers are a tough bet because you need them to be talented to pay off. Whereas day 3 running backs can just be a body with a pulse. Next man up can give you 15 points per game in a pinch pretty much every time without fail. So that's going to do it for us today, fellas. As always, I love you guys. I also want to say, I never push this, but I've been trying to be better about posting all of these on my podcast, right? So the audio form. I listen to fantasy football content primarily, like 99% of it, while I'm driving. So I want to get better at putting all of this stuff through the audio waves, through the airwaves for you guys. So check them all out. I have the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play. However you listen to your podcast, it's probably there. So that'll be down below in the description. Maybe I'll put it in the comments. I don't know yet. But that's going to do it for us today. As always, I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoena from Mr. Meaner.